Good morning. I just realized I didn't put my headphones in. And I don't have my wireless ones, so these are really... Okay, can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me in the comments. This is very tangled up here. So we are starting school. We've had a bunch of parent-teacher conferences happening, orientations, back-to-school nights, and in 26 states, as we mentioned before, we have legislatures or school boards who have proposed different rules or policies restricting how teachers can talk about race and related issues. So today we are so honored to have two guests joining us. They are longtime educators in Utah. Both of them have decades of experience, specifically in DEI instruction, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they're going to be joining us here in just one moment. While we wait, let me give you a little bit of information about each of them. So I'll get their bios up here. I do not know. This is not pulling down. Okay. One moment here. Actually, okay, here we are. I think my screen is actually frozen. Okay. There we go. And they should be joining us here in just a moment while they come up. Hello!
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to just pull these out because I am way too here.
Okay.
My screen here. Okay. It is great to see both of you.
Yes, good to see you too.
Okay, let me just do a little intro here for everyone who's following along. And I should let you know that we've had so many messages from followers who love both of you and who have said they're so excited to be here and just so grateful for all the work that you've done in Utah. You are legends.
We're glad to be here. Yeah. And we're grateful to all the followers.
Okay, so let me let people know. Right here we have Dr. Jackie. Do you want to wave so they can? So Dr. Jackie, you have just been doing work in Utah for decades, and
Yes.
let's see here. You've won so many awards. In 2012, Governor Herbert appointed you to the State Multicultural Commission. You were a recipient of the 2013 Human Rights Award from Utah School Counselors. You served as a board member for the Utah Humanities Council. I mean, you have done so much in Utah to promote DEI, multicultural experiences to help children feel like they belong and welcome there in the schools there, and are a mentor to so many educators also. Let me see here, and then let me pull up. I mean, I could take an hour reading the accomplishments of you women, but we want to get down to our discussion here. Michelle Love-Day, you want to give a little wave, Michelle? She's been an educator for 20 years and she serves on many different boards, including the University of Utah College of Education Advancement Board, the Hale Center Theater Board of Trustees, the Access to Justice Commission, and the Conviction Integrity Board. You own Love-Day Educational Consulting, which shares information on ways parents can work with schools, advocate for their children. We are going to be talking today about, there's so much discussion and a lot of concerned parents and a lot of concerned teachers about some of these policies. We want to know straight from people who are doing the work what good DEI instruction actually looks like in schools, because we're hearing a lot about from other people what they think it looks like. We want to hear from you, the experts. What does good DEI instruction look like?
Oh, yes. You go first.
Okay.
I don't know if this is going to work because it's connected to my phone. We were going to use a microphone because her voice is a little lower and softer, but it's connecting to my phone. So hopefully you can hear her okay.
Okay. Oh, well, thank you, Miss Michelle. And Miss Lisa, I'll use my teacher's voice.
There you go.
And good morning, everyone. We're so excited to be with you. Good DEI instruction looks like partnering with parents and with our educators. And we've done throughout the years a training called REACH. And I believe that REACH would be a great one. It's a professional development for teachers, and teachers also use it with students. And it's called Respecting Ethnic and Cultural Heritage. Gary Howard is the founder of REACH. He is a white man who uses an inclusive approach through the 5 REACH basic principles. And those 5 basic principles are multiple perspectives. The second one, culture is something everyone has. The third one, building cultural bridges. The fourth one, head, heart, hands for healing. And the fifth one, co-responsibility. And so the students would learn all 5 of those basic principles. Teachers would then have opportunity to infuse multicultural concepts into the curriculum so that all students feel valued and safe and have a place of belonging, but know their contributions and can see themselves reflected in the curriculum as well. So good DEI training is inclusive. It doesn't divide anyone. It recognizes our diversity, which enriches us, and then our commonalities, which bring us closer together. So I'll let Ms. Michelle now address.
Yeah, and when we have good DEI workshops in schools, it just helps teachers to be aware of how to connect better with the students that they're teaching. Many of our teachers, especially here in Utah, they don't look like their students, and that's okay because students know when a teacher cares for them. And so when you have good diversity, equity, and inclusion training, it encompasses the care for the students and what they need and who they are as they're coming to the classroom. And it also allows the teacher to address any misconceptions that they might have had about a culture, about a set of people, and just opens them up to have a relationship. Relationships precede learning. So there's going to be no learning made if there's not a connection between the teacher and the student. And so when we conduct workshops for not only the administrators, we definitely have that as something that could be for the learning to occur. Climate, curriculum, good climate class.
Oh, you're cutting out a little bit for me. Can everyone else hear just this last little part?
I said climate is eats curriculum for breakfast. So we want a good rooms.
Yes, we want safe, productive, inclusive schools and spaces for students where they can respected, a place of learning. The same climate for our educators as well. We want it to be user-friendly where parents are welcome, a welcoming environment, because we know that parents are the first teachers of the students. Yeah. And so we want a strong partnership with parents and educators and community and administrators.
So how do we build that partnership? If you're a parent in a school who is concerned or interested in this kind of thing, how do you build that relationship with the teacher?
So building the relationships, it's one thing. It starts with just the first day of school and with the back to school night, and walking in, introducing yourself, and having a conversation. Teachers are really busy, so they're trying to make all 26 kids feel welcome and whatnot. And so you may not have the initial conversation, but sign up to volunteer in the classroom now that we can go back into the classroom again, and communicate your child's needs with the teacher and schedule that meeting. It's unrealistic to say, I need to talk to you right now when there's 50 other parents, but schedule time to sit down to talk about your child's individual needs. Volunteer when you can, even if it looks like, I'm a working parent. So sometimes I can't come into the classroom and do the math facts, but I can take the staples out the Scholastic magazine orders and partner in that way. And I can come to the after school events and activities. And so that again starts the relationship. And it's the same thing. You know, you can't just jump in and, assume and want teachers to do something without understanding your needs. Communicate, have conversations, schedule appointments to talk with the teacher and asking things, reading what comes home, reading your emails and responding to your emails. I know sometimes as educators we feel like, did they read the email?
Yes.
Did they read what's going on? So communicating in that way and establishing the relationship, Dr. Jackie.
Oh, yes. Oh, that is wonderful. Thank you, Mrs. Michelle. Yes, so establishing that relationship and letting the teachers know that you are concerned about your child and that you want to work with them in partnership. Ms. Michelle mentioned about the volunteering. That's important in whatever capacity that you can, just letting them know that you're available and there and wanting that two-way communication. As you build the bridges and you go into your child's school for perhaps that back to school night or on a regular basis, please visit the library and see what type of multicultural books are in there. And also have those in your home as well. Have go into the community, see what's happening in your community, in your diverse community, and not only visit and go to festivals, but there's other churches, there's other places that you can go to. This Saturday, there's an Afro festival that's being held at the Gateway. Tonight, there's Motown. Bring your children to those, and that's at the Gallivan Center. So be inclusive starting in your home, and then also let the educators know if you would like to share about your background, your history in your children's classrooms as well. Just building that partnership, because it takes all of us. There's an African proverb that it takes a village to raise a child.
That's right.
So be a part of that village. Know that you are welcome and that you belong.
And I think that's the most important thing. As you know, especially K-6 educators, it is a true fact that we do prefer children over adults, right? But that's a good thing. That's why we got into the profession. We love children. But across the K-12 board, educators are there for the students first. And it's kind of like a partnership, a marriage. And so as long as the parents understand and know that educators have the same goal in mind for their children that they have, we're coming across on the same page. We're not the enemy. We don't have it out for the children. And so I think it's kind of like a successful marriage. When you know that your partner has the same end goal, it just might look a little different to have a successful child that's not going to be a jerk in society. That's what educators want. We want to have individuals that are going to take care of us, because we're going to be in nursing homes soon.
Yes.
So we want capable nurses, doctors, caregivers, and compassionate, empathetic people. And so as long as parents come in knowing that that's what teachers want, we will have a successful partnership. We love every student that walks in the door. Yes, we have struggles with students, and just like any other human interaction, some are going to be more difficult than others, but that's where we need the parents. And we need parents to be honest. Like, I know my child can be like this, and be realistic to who you know your children to be and who you're sending to us, and just know that we are going to be the ultimate professionals. And it just kind of breaks my heart as I look at the decline in that respect for the professional things that we do.
That is so true. And to educators that are listening out there, as you're building the bridge with the parents, start off positive. Acknowledge something that student is doing to the parent. And then as you have other things that need to be addressed, you built that bridge. But continue to look for the good in that child and meet their individual needs. Get to know who they are. And then let them know who you are too. As you start off the school year, set that safe, inclusive environment, positive environment. but we just say that reach out and share something. The families love to hear good things about their children too, and what they're successful at and what they're doing well. And if concerns come up, they know, oh, well, they care about my child. They tell me, oh, I should just paraphrase, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so, but our children are very valuable to us, and we want them to feel welcome in that classroom, and that they have a voice, and that those voices are going to be heard and listened to and felt safe, because the educator is there as a facilitator to impart knowledge, but also everyone is a teacher, as we say in Reach Training.
Yes.
And everyone is a learner. And we're excited for this new school year. We're excited as we continue to partner with our educators, with our parents. We have a strong partnership with UEA and in our community. And so we just think that joining together, it makes it better for all of our children. And that's what we're about.
Yes, perfectly said.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And when you said, as a teacher approaching a parent, mentioning some of the great things about their child and showing that they care, it seems like as a parent approaching a teacher, they could use a similar approach if they're concerned about the classroom being inclusive.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. I think for me, especially, I'm a parent, right? I have school age children still. And I always have to walk that fine line of like, okay, don't do this and don't do that as the educator, and bringing in that privilege. And so as a parent, I have children that have needs. And so I send an email and schedule the appointment, because I am aware of how busy a teacher is going to be at the first of the year. For example, this week, teachers are back to work, but they're not at their desk. They're not sitting and just at their computers. They are decorating the classroom. They're sitting in professional development. I'm getting texts right now from my support staff of like, where do we go for the meeting? They're not in the classroom. They're in professional development, learning about updates and data reports from last year's test scores, so that they can understand the students that they're receiving. And so giving that time, because that first day of school, they're preparing for our children to walk through the door. And so they're not going to be answering emails all day. And so when we send an email, we have to understand it's not like how we're used to, like, I send a text, why aren't they responding back? Teachers may not read that email till 10 o'clock at night when they're at home and they should be relaxing. And so it's not going to be immediate response. And so I know when I was a principal, people would say, well, I sent her an email yesterday. And I'm like, well, if she doesn't respond in 4 days, then we'll have a problem. But right now she's kind of teaching 8 hours today. So she'll get back to you, I promise. And just give it some time. Teachers are, being smart and using Facebook to update Class Dojo. And so join those apps as best you can, and then schedule the appointment. They're just like any professional. You don't just walk into a doctor's office and say, see my kid. There's office hours. There's, clinic times that you have to adhere to. And teachers are the same in that professional meeting. So just be patient, schedule the appointment with the teacher, and share what you know about your child and what you know has worked with your child. And then know that they have 25 children that have special accommodations as well, and they'll do their best to meet those needs.
Excellent. Yeah. And thank you, Mrs. Michelle.
Yeah, thank you.
We love our teachers. We love our teachers. They work so hard and give so much. Definitely share with the teachers the experience that your child is having, that you are having, and what you do appreciate. A little appreciation goes a long way, and encouragement and support both ways.
Yeah.
And I believe that, it's the ripple effect.
Yes.
It's that ripple effect.
Yeah. I think the one thing with our profession, Dr. Jackie, is everyone has been in school.
Yes.
And so they all think that they can do what we do.
Yes.
Right? And yes, parents are the child's first teacher, but even the way you teach them is different, right? It's completely different. Now imagine teaching your child times 25 different children. Now, and I know in Utah we have lots of babies, right? We have kids families with 8 and 9 kids, but imagine multiplying that across the board, and then you have to fill those hungry brains with knowledge. So yes, we are all teachers in a way, but the craft of teaching is a special art. And I think people forget that. and they take it for granted because they've been through school. I've been to the doctor, but I don't know anything about what it takes to be a doctor. I've been to the gas station, but I don't know what it takes to get the gas into the pump. So, yeah, we've got to have that respect so that it can ripple out for the love to come back together.
Excellent. And Miss Michelle, you hit upon it so beautifully. Even as parents having many beautiful children, each one is an individual. And educators do that. They meet each child's individual need as you do as parents. So it is important to recognize that that's what they're doing, meeting the child where they are and bringing them along. And high expectations. Families and educators, administrators, high expectations for all of our students. Beyond the sky is a limit for them. Mm-hmm. If they can dream it, they can do it.
That's right.
And you're the ones that help them to reach those dreams.
Yes.
I can listen to you talk about teaching all day long. So inspiring. So if you are let's talk about white parents who are concerned that maybe they're not seeing a lot of inclusivity, or they hear about an activity that their student did that they do feel was perhaps inappropriate. Are they overstepping their bounds as a white parent to go to a teacher and express those concerns? How would you address that?
You know what? Absolutely not. No. We, for example, just last year, there was a conversation we had with junior high students. And so at the beginning of the lesson for social studies, the school, they prep the students and they talk about how we're going to be learning about different cultures, and we're going to be talking about different things in our social studies unit. And so they wanted us to come out and have the discussion with the class of what it looks like when you're bullying people and how you're saying things and how it could come across, right? And the fear was because there was a lot of students in the class on one side that were asking permission to a Black student if they could use the N-word. Mm. And so they're like, okay, we've got to try to, so here you have, this is the teacher's perspective. We have kids asking their friend if they could use the N-word. We're getting ready to go into the social studies unit as we're studying multiple cultures, and we have some bullying going on the other side. So how are we going to address it? So we went in, these are junior high students, they're smart. So we talked about some heavy definitions. We talked about, what is it when you have bias, and what does that look like? Have you ever had bias against you? And one girl had purple hair, and she's like, yeah, people always think that I'm a punk rocker because I have purple hair. And then we talked about what a microaggression was. And so we explained what that is, and we explained the definitions, and we had the conversation. We talked about how when you're going into this unit, be open to different ways that people live. People eat with their hands. That's not unsanitary. That is a cultural, spiritual, experience. Mm-hmm. And so go in with an open mind and don't go, ooh, that's not how I would do it, because we do things different in America. And that was the hour-long discussion. And a white parent did call and said, I didn't like the presentation. I didn't like what was talked about. We met with he and the principal. And his main concern was the term microaggression. Mm-hmm. He felt that term was very harsh. He said, my daughter is a kind girl. She wouldn't hurt a fly. She's very worried now that if she says anything, she's going to offend someone. And I said, that is a slippery, dance. But if we say something with love, it's coming across as love. He said that she's afraid to ask somebody if they're from Hawaii now because of that conversation, and went on. And I said, well, this is what microaggression means. It's something that happens over and over and over again over time. So you described your daughter as having red hair and being very quiet. Now, what if every day of her life somebody says to her, oh, you must be fiery because you have red hair. I'm sure you're very aggressive because you have red hair. When are you going to explode because you have red hair? Over time, your sweet, quiet child is going to keep hearing about how red hair people act, and that's not who she is, and she might go off and explode. I said, and so that's what a microaggression is. It's small, it eats at the person. And so we have to look at what we're doing to each other. And so that's why we have the conversations. It's not going to encourage the kid to go out and say mean things, and it shouldn't repress their voice either. And so once we had the conversation, I said, that's something you have across the dinner table. And you talk to your daughter. You say, it's okay to still comment on someone and say, oh, I like your outfit. That's very African looking. That's not offensive. You know, don't be so afraid to love on people. And at the same time, be aware that if I ask the person that same question, do I ask everyone that same question? And so, you know, talking to white parents, people of color, you know, Black, Indigenous people of color, they have to deal with these conversations on a daily basis, but typically white parents don't. And so it is uncomfortable. And so just having the discussion of, I'm sorry that that made your child feel uncomfortable. This is the message behind the message. I think we'll go further than just saying, we don't want to have these conversations at all, because that's not going to, it's kind of too hard to do that, because we have the other side of kids that are asking for permission to use the N-word. So how do we help both sets of students? And that's where I say education is a craft and an art, because we're dealing with all of the kids together at all the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Michelle. I've seen Mrs. Michelle use this so beautifully in talking about microaggressions. It doesn't end there, because then the student gets the correct language and tools and skills on how to address that. For example, if the student wanted to know about another student's ethnicity, you'd help them to be able to say, you know, what is your ethnicity? Where are your ancestors from? We're all in a journey, and we make mistakes along the way. So we do things out of love, and we continue to grow. So we must talk about microaggression and bias and be aware of them. It's for us to be aware of these things and then to know how to address them. Ms. Michelle talked about the N-word, and it's not appropriate even within the same race to use that.
That's right.
Because then you give permission to others to use it. When I first heard about students asking permission to use the race card, I thought, what? And then hearing about it, but no, it's not acceptable. It's so hurtful. We have many civil rights complaints based on that. And any student that's called that, they feel hurt, they feel sad, they feel unsafe. And so we talk about that. And to our white parents and all parents, we want you to feel empowered. We want you to feel valued. We want you to feel that you have a voice to go in to address your concerns at the most immediate level. And that's where things can be addressed. And then there is a large group of our friends that are white parents that are adopting Black children or children of other races. And a resource for you is the Domino Foundation. Mm-hmm. Go to their Facebook. It's a support group talking about these very concerns and issues. And so we just think having that support, having the training and education for our students, I'm finding out, they want to have conversations.
They do.
They want to be inclusive. They want to be accepting of one another. Our teachers want to have these conversations as well. And that's why professional development is so crucial and so important, that we continue to learn and grow and educate one another. Again, everyone is a teacher and everyone is a learner.
That's right. That's right.
That is so great. I appreciate how you keep talking about this trust, and when you talk about, you're like, they're junior high students, so they're smart. And not everyone, you know, that's not always the first adjective that people are coming up with when they're talking about junior high students, but they're not giving them the credit that they deserve. And they're ready for these topics, and they want to learn.
They can handle it, and they teach me sometimes, as they're experiencing things in real time. They're on social media more than I am, and they see and hear things, and so they have questions. And the connection to it is just amazing in everything that we're teaching. So we could be teaching Shakespeare, and then they see it in a different way and ask questions. And so we want to have teachers that are equipped, that when those questions do come up, that they don't dismiss the child, because how disrespectful is it when your question's never answered, right? And students, that's another part of that relationship. So if they realize, I asked my teacher something, they brushed it off and said that they can't talk about it. I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. This is on my mind. And so we want to equip teachers with professional development so that they know how to handle those questions in a professional way. It's the same thing. We're not going to go out and just just share all of our personal things. When teachers walk in to a building, they're kind of shielding who they are, and what they believe, so that they could teach the masses. And so we want to equip the teachers with the right response that will lead students to think. And here's the word that seems charged, but we want them to think critically. We do.
Yes.
It's a bad word these days, but we want critical thinkers because we don't want robots. That would be so boring.
That you're exactly right, Ms. Michelle. And so as we talk about critical thinking, the training that we do in the schools is CRT. It's called culturally responsive teaching.
Yes, it's not that CRT.
No,
but that it does have the same initials.
It has the same initials, and we do want our teachers to be critical thinkers and our students as well, because we're giving them the life skills to be global citizens of the world.
Yes.
And we talked about junior high. We love junior high students and high school, but we'd like to start earlier. We'd like to start pre-K all the way up into elementary.
They're aware and they can't put things into words. They know what's happening, but they can't put it into words. And so they know when a student is being treated unfairly.
Yes.
But they're just not sure as to why. Now, does that mean we point it out to them? We just say, no, everyone is different. We talk about we don't treat people different because of what they wear and their hair color. But we have the conversations as young as pre-K because they're aware of it. They see it. They know what's happening. They know that there's differences in people. And it's okay to talk about it. I had a little girl come up to me in the grocery store and she touched my hand and she said, "Why is your skin dirty?" And I said, "Oh, baby, this is not dirty. This is how God made me. And this is the color that I am year round." And the mother, white mother, she was so embarrassed.
Yes.
She said, "Oh, I'm so," I said, no.
No.
It is not her fault. You expose her to books. If you can't bring her around to people that look like me in real life, show her positive images of movies and books, because again, there are ways you can teach your child before they even get to us, so that when they get to us, they're not culture shocked and like, who are all these people and why? Expose them via books. You know, if you look at your family circle and everybody looks the same, bring in a doll that is different. Incorporate all those kinds of things. My children have a lot of black dolls, but they also have white dolls with red hair and blue eyes. They also have Asian dolls, so that when they look at their immediate family, we all look the same, but they are aware that when they walk out of the house, there's people that look different than them, and they are all God's children too, right? And whether you believe in God or not, as an educator, you know that there's a higher power that's coming out somewhere, and we want that to be given. And so as parents, we have to prepare our children to be global citizens. We can't shelter them from everything all the time.
Exactly right. And I love that we are all God's children, and then our faith in a higher being. I would also ask parents, look at your circle of friends, and have a diverse circle. It will benefit your children.
You.
And you as well. It's enriching. Again, it's our diversity that enriches us, and our commonalities that bring us closer together. So if your children see diverse people coming in and out of your house, having dinner or conversations, part of book clubs, you're going and having play dates. I know my grandchildren talk about play dates all the time, and they're very diverse. I see parents in the community that say, "Oh, you're Tajirini's grandma. Oh, my William plays with them, or goes to school with them." And they're diverse parents themselves, white parents of all different races.
Yes.
And then I just look at my beautiful friend, Miss Michelle Love-Day. I mean, she is just so beautiful inside and out. And for that child to come up and see her beauty, and Miss Michelle to see the beauty in that child, we don't want the families to feel like if the children are asking questions that there's something wrong. Someone could be in a wheelchair and they say, "Oh, don't look at them, don't stare."
No.
Then they think it's something wrong, rather than that wheelchair being an apparatus for the person to get around in. Or if they look at the color of a person's beautiful skin and they say, oh, no, no, don't ask that. They think there's something wrong. Our children are curious to end racism or sexism or any of that. Start young. Nobody is born a racist or a sexist or any of those. Be inclusive. Talk about that. I love it, Miss Michelle.
And
through
you
the
hit
books.
it. Yes, through the books. And the Special Olympics starts August 24th.
Yes.
And I had my children watch the preview of it because I want them to see that, yes, they have different things about them, but they are strong and fierce and can conquer things that we could never conquer. And that's what inclusivity is looking like. It's not always about race. It's about ability groups. It's about gender. It's about economic status. You know, we look at what rich is and we compare it to the things that people have, but we want to build children to know that they may not have a lot, but they are rich in love. They are rich in family. And so to have those discussions that people live different lives and they are strong and they're just killing it in all areas.
Exactly. And then I also love the ideal of when I think about diverse hiring practices too, so that your children see diversity in their schools from the front office to the administration, all the way up through to the district offices, because if they can see it, they can be it. And so if they say that if a child has a Black teacher or a teacher of color in addition to a white teacher, that it will impact their future and their life, and that those positive role models. And so we ask that when speakers are coming in, that they be from diverse backgrounds, that educators, as much diversity as we can recruit, be there, so that children's first exposure is not seeing someone maybe in the store, but they've seen them in their preschools. They see what the world looks
normal
like.
Because even for children of color to see representation and how that matters, it's also for the other side too, for white children to be like, oh, they're not just athletes and entertainers. They have an amazing brain on their head, and for them to see that, again, all people encompass all areas. So does all that sound bad, that we want that in schools?
Bring it on.
I know, but that's I think what we're, it's like, oh, that's what you're trying to get rid of.
Yeah. And something else we want in schools, if we might add, Miss Michelle and I are part of our Utah Ethnic Studies Coalition, and our primary goal is to draft legislation to amend K-12 core curriculum standards and infuse ethnic studies into the K-12 core curriculum. We're going to ask for funding for K-12 core curriculum standards and teacher training. Preschool teachers have said, do not forget us. We want the children, when they come in, to learn about everyone, to see scientists and inventors of different backgrounds, to see women, mathematicians, and, to read it in right there in the curriculum, have it fused across the curriculum, that it's rich, that it's preparing our students. Students of all background and all races have contributed. And so this beautiful, rich culture that we're all a part of, that we celebrate all of our heritage.
Watching the news, it makes me realize it's not the children that are going to need the education as much as it's the parents to have those conversations when the children come home. Because your children will come home and they might have gone through something that made them uncomfortable. But like Dr. Jackie said, instead of ignoring it or getting mad like there was something wrong, having the skills as the parent to step back and say, you know what, let me think about that and come talk to you about it later. Because when you're emotionally charged and you react, the kids are going to be like, oh, that was bad, and I'm not going to listen to my teacher tomorrow. There's other perspectives. So ask yourself, why did that teacher say that? Give pause and think about the 20 other kids in the class. Maybe there was some bullying that happened that the teacher had to address something. Hold on, you know what? I'm going to let mommy think on it, and I'll be back. You don't have to have an answer in that moment at that day, especially if it's rubbed you the wrong way and you've had some trauma in that area. Take a minute, Google it, call a friend, get a perspective, and then come back to them and say, you know what, honey, maybe the way your teacher taught it wasn't the way, but in our family, and add to it. Don't make it seem like it needs to be silenced and cut off. Because then that child will be like, my mom says that we don't ever have to talk about blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, well, but you have all these friends in the classroom. How can we not? And so it kind of worries me that the parents, even though that they are the child's first teacher in these crucial conversations, they're not fully equipped to emotionally handle the reaction, because their reaction means everything for us the next day in the classroom.
Exactly. And thank you, Ms. Michelle, for that. When we look at multiple perspectives, remember that you hear one side of the story, but gather the story from the teacher too. Your child is telling their perspective, and we're not saying it's wrong, but we're saying gather the other to say, oh, you know, my child's had this information. Can you help me understand what took place, or share with me more so that I can learn about it? And then when you talk with your child too, say, your teacher and I have had a great conversation around this, and she helped me to understand, he or she, we have male teachers who helped me to understand this even better. Let's talk about this some more and have that discussion. But most important thing that you've done is you stopped and you listened to your child's concern.
We're never going to be able to, we're never going to be able to control a conversation when we're dealing with humans. And when we're dealing with humans that come from multiple different homes. There's children, I could have a class of 25 white children, just white. And every one of those children have different home lives, home experiences. They have different trauma that they're bringing with them. Maybe they're from parents of divorce. Everyone has different experiences. So short of just staying in a small room with you and your child, they're going to experience things. And it's okay to have the conversations and to talk about it, and to not say, well, we don't want this, we don't want this. Because how can you prevent anything when you're dealing with humans? We're not dealing with cars. We are dealing with human children that have older brothers and sisters. How many of you have older siblings? My 9-year-old is probably learning so much more than my first child, because she has 4 older siblings ranging from 22 to her age. So she's seeing and hearing things that I wouldn't want a 9-year-old to see and hear. But you know what? I'm going to talk to her and I'm going to say, yes, your 22-year-old sister said X, Y, and Z, but she is this age and this is what's appropriate for you. And do not go back to school and say that something doesn't exist, because there are children that still believe that something exists at Christmas time here. So, so don't ruin other people's dreams. But that's how I respect that. Like, you, in our family here, this is how we believe and what we do. But there are families with 2 dads, and there are families with 2 moms, and they love their children just as much as I love you, and we are not going to be disrespectful. And that's not going to affect who she becomes. It's just teaching her to love other people, and to, you know, if you like it, I love it. If it's making you happy, go for it. It's not affecting who I'm going to be, but I'm going to respect it. And if it's something that I have to talk to her more about, we will, and then she can make her decisions later in life. We have to be strong as parents to not want to shut down every conversation. Everything is not critical race theory, but everything is culturally responsive teaching in certain areas, and we can't just shut down conversation.
No, we cannot. And Miss Michelle, thank you, because as a outstanding educator and
she's
outstanding
so nice.
parent,
You hear her gassing me out. I love her.
This
is why I hang out with her.
I hang out with her. I love her.
Thank you. Go on.
But I wanted to say that you so skillfully showed us and modeled how to have age-appropriate conversation as a parent. And our educators are doing that same thing too, having age-appropriate conversations with the students. And that's what they're doing. And through professional development, I love professional development because educators get to share what they are doing with each other. And that's some of the most powerful piece of it, because they are doing a lot of great things out there in addition to learning, but they are sharing. So this is age-appropriate. And when we talk about CRT, cultural responsive teaching, that's what's going on in the schools. The CRT that you hear about, critical race theory, is a tool a tool to look at injustices and inequities and where they are coming from, and to address that too in underrepresentation, our students with disability, the school to prison pipeline. If you will remember, there's MESA, Math, Engineering, Science,
Yes,
Achievement, and it was created to address underrepresentation of girls and students of color in math. And now we see all these beautiful STEM programs that are inclusive. So that was just a tool to say, where are there inequities, injustices that we need to look at so that all students can benefit
Right.
from this education system. So it's basically.
Because when you look at critical race theory, it's not something that is taught in schools.
No.
At all. And
No.
so to say that we don't want it, but then you add and pile on what it is, then discredits the actual definition of what critical race theory is. It's like saying, well, now this phone is critical race theory. Dr.
Yes.
Jackie's earrings are critical race theory. It's like you can't compound when there's only 5 tenets in critical race theory, and those need to be studied so that the adults can make the decision moving forward. It's not something that we tell children. Can you imagine pulling out a law book and saying, let's study critical race theory, children? This is going to be great for first grade. It's just not happening. And I think that was seen, and they realized,
Yes.
okay, that's not the definition, but now dumping everything into it and saying empathy is critical race theory, social emotional learning is critical race theory. That's dangerous to who we want to become as a human race.
Mm-hmm.
And just encompassing, all those things. Our state in Utah and many other states, especially with your organization, Mormon Women, service is at the core of who we are, right? Service is the point. And so then you say service is critical race theory. Well, okay, we can't even teach children how to plant a garden now. Like, what do we do? What can we do? And so it's that side, when people are upset, I get it. You're allowed to be afraid of something that you don't know, but pause and take a step back, read the 5 tenets, and ask yourself, are teachers really sitting down and going through those 5 tenets? And it's an academic movement. Critical race theory was a movement of civil rights scholars and activists in the United States they were looking critically to examine the law as it intersects with the issues of race and to challenge the mainstream approaches. It was in the 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
And so those theories that they were challenging are important so that we have organizations that are inclusive for science and STEM activities. So theories are not bad. That's how people are thinking. And it expands it. We could look at it and say, oh, that's great, wonderful, and then move on. But as educators, it's just not something that we're holding that much. But everything we said before, that's what we want to teach.
That's what we want to teach. And we want to thank MWEG too, because when we join our voices together, they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's a proverb, African proverb. And so when we all went to the State Board of Education to the hearing on the rule on the language around equity, justice, and inclusion, the presentation from NWEG was outstanding. It was so powerful, so spiritual, so inclusive, that when we followed you and followed UEA and others that were presenting that day, we felt encouraged, we felt uplifted, we felt that we were joining together to say that we just want this to be the best education that our children can have, that we want it to be inclusive and positive and respectful for all, but that we must teach about one another. We must learn about one another. We must continue on to grow. And as Miss Michelle said beautifully, build these citizens of our global society. We start now with them. We start now. Their voices are important. Our children are already doing great things, amazing things in the area. We talked about the 5th Reach Basic Principle, being co-responsible. I mean, they're fundraising for others that may need backpacks and getting ready for school and helping and mentoring. We're seeing the in the elementary school where the upper grade are mentoring kindergarten and taking pride in that. And the kindergartners are so proud to have that youth mentor right along with them. Our students are brilliant, and we are proud of that. And to our
Yes.
parents, we thank you, and we just are so grateful for all that you do. But that day, I tell you, that made a difference in our lives. We knew that we could go far together.
Yes. And with that, we probably have to go. We're going to go see an actual student right now who has fundraised and raised books so that there could be an inclusive library. Yeah. So
That's wonderful.
I hope we answered all your questions.
That was amazing. You both are incredible. Your optimism and your expertise have just given me so much hope, so much to think about. We really appreciate you spending some time with us this morning.
Thank
Wow.
you. We'll
Thank
talk
you, Miss
soon.
Lisa.
Yes, thank you. And everyone, if you check out the Ethnic Studies Coalition for the work that they're doing there. And I don't live in Utah, but I have nieces and nephews who do, and go to the schools there. And I so appreciate the work that you two are doing. Thank you so much.
Good
Have a
day.
great day. Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye.
Love you guys.